Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And how are you, everybody? Welcome to Curriculum and Material Development 1. Today, we will be talking about product of a course design. I am hoping that this is going to be an interesting topic for you. Well, when we talk about product of a course design, we will talk about a huge area. And we won't finish. We won't finish it today, and so we will focus only to two topics. Okay. Well, what will be the topic for today? Firstly, we will be talking about a course rationale, and the second one, we will be talking about a list of goals and objectives. Other topics, such as a list of competencies achieved by the students, a needs assessment questionnaire, a test bank, a syllabus, some other times, okay? So we can talk about them some other times. Well, let's move on to the first topic. I think it can't wait, right? Okay. What is a course rationale? So, a course rationale is usually explaining the beliefs, values, and goals that are underlying the course. It needs 2 or 3 paragraphs to provide information about the teaching and learning that we are going to run. It's quite clear there. Like there are 3 terms that I think you need to keep in mind: beliefs, values, and goals. So that's why it needs a couple of paragraphs, so you can explain everything. It's just like a story. You can tell about what are the beliefs, the values, and the goals, and let the people know, so then they won't have, bad curiosity about your teaching, about your activities in the class, because they are outlined in your course rationale. Now, I will read you an example of a course rationale, and then I'm hoping that this can help you design your own course rationale. Okay, let me just read it for you. This is this course, this is designed for high school students who wish to improve their communication skills in English in order to pass the oral test. It teaches basic communication skills needed to communicate for day-to-day conversation or day-to-day communication. This course seeks to enable participants to recognize their strengths and needs in language learning, and to give them the confidence to use English more effectively to achieve their own goals. It also aims to help students to be able to develop their independent learning when they are not at school. So when you design your own rationale, at least you can have this kind of, story, this kind of information. And so we can see what is actually the reason behind the presentation of your course or material and so forth. Right. Now, we're going to move on to aims. So again, today, we will talk about the rationale, and then now we're going to move on aims. Aims is very important because it talks about philosophy. right? But let me just explain it for you, and I'm hoping that you can see how aims can become the foundation of our teaching. The first one, aims are general statements that provides a sense of direction and serve as a guiding principle for educational policy. Okay. The next one, aims are the translation of the general philosophy and needs of the country. Aims are designed at the national level by policy-making groups. Aims can be based on the constitution of a country. So if you can see this, for explanation, then I think you get a better picture of why aim should be brought into our teaching practices. Okay. Now, I'm going to present you some example of aims, and I'm hoping this example can help you grasp what are aims actually, why aims are important in our teaching practices. The first one, to prepare students for democratic citizenship. The next one, to develop a moral character and personal discipline, to strengthen ethical and spiritual values, to teach the rights and the duties of citizenship. And the last one, to encourage creative and critical thinking. So you can imagine your student will have this these ideas or this principle in their life, in their character, if you insert a very, very good aims when you are teaching. Okay. And now we're going to move on to the next slide, the goals. Okay. What is the difference between aims and goal? And then in this slide you will be presented with definition and example, and then of course you can come up with your own conclusion that now I know the difference between aims and goals. Goals are derived from aims. Okay, so now you know it. Okay, so goals are derived from aims. So you can have this, number one is aims and the number two goals, right? The next one, aims become goals when they become more specific and refer to a particular schools or a school system and to a specific subject area of the curriculum. So you can see that it's a bit more specific. And the next one, goals translate aims to statements that will describe what schools are expected to obtain. So I don't really have to explain it because it's clearly written in that in that sentence. And the last one, goals are more specific and definite than aims, but they are still non-behavioral, non-observable, and non-measurable. You need to pay attention to these three key terms: non-behavioral, non-observable, non-measurable. Means like, you cannot observe them. You can think about them. Yeah. Non-measurable, you cannot measure them. But you can sense that. It's kind of difficult. But anyway, I'll give you an example and so you can understand them. Okay, so here are examples. Let's begin with the first one. You just write the development of reading skills, the development of speaking skills, the development of writing skills, and the last one, the development of listening skills. How come you can understand the details if you just write the head? Like, I want to improve my reading skills. I want to improve my speaking skills. You need to specify what reading skills that are you going to improve, what speaking skill that you need to learn, what writing skill that you need to learn, and so forth. And so now, to be more specific, I'm going to bring you to this slide, the objectives. This needs to be understood quite well, and then you need to practice yourself how to write it, because there's no specific tips that I will provide you in order to be able to write a better objectives. Objectives are stated in observable and measurable terms: outcomes, proficiency, competencies. Objectives are behavioral in nature and more precise than goals. And the last one, objectives state what students should know at the end of the course and what is expected from them. It's very clear there. So then when we write objectives, for example, I'm going to teach you speaking today, and then my objective is at the end of the course you will be able to talk about your parts of body. So when I ask you to talk about your parts of body, and then you can tell them completely, or you can tell them 100%, then I can mark you with 100. But if you just talk about some of them and then partial, then you won't get full mark. So you can see that, right? To understand this one, let's see the example of objectives, and then there we can talk more about it. We can expand it. Okay, here it is. The first one, to identify the main idea of the passage. So when you assign your students to identify the main idea, then you can measure the activities. For example, if your student cannot find, then that means they can't do that. But if they know the answer, or they can find the main idea, okay, they can write the main idea, means they know it. Or probably they can write it, or they can say it, but not fully, so you can give them like half. So this is what we mean by a very clear objective. We can see and we can measure. Okay. See the next one. To be able to express, advise, and complain. What does it mean? It means that if I ask you to express, advise, and complain, and then I give you example and I teach you about them, and at the end of the course I am asking you to practice, and then you know it, then that means you fulfill the objective, or the objective of the lesson is attained. Because I can see that, I can mark it. The next one will to locate the topic sentence and the supporting details, and the last one is to differentiate the present and past simple. So these 4 examples, actually you can expand it, you can practice at home, and then after that you can see your own objectives when you are going to write it. Or if I assign you to teach and then you write objective, now you have good good models, you have a picture, you have at least basic understanding of how are you going to develop them further. Okay. Now I think we're gonna go to the last slide. What is it? Why do we need learning objectives? Why it's important? Do we need it? I think some people, they say, I don't need it. Oh, I need it. So this question, we can answer it that we do need learning objectives because it helps us, it guides us to, to attain the ultimate goals of the learning. So let's see the first one, to provide guidelines for learning. The next one, to provide a focus for instruction. To communicate expectation to learners. To provide for evaluation of instruction. To provide target for assessment. And the last one, to convey instructional intent to others. So if you can see these points, they are actually a helper for a teacher in order to teach well. If we do this nicely, the student will be blown away with our teaching presentation. Okay? So, I will send the assignment through WhatsApp, and then I can clarify, I will explain how are you going to write it, how are you going to submit it. Okay, so that's the end of the class today. I'll see you in the next class. Bye.